doing? All right, a couple announcements before we get started here. Joined on the podium up here by Ohio State student athletes Malaki Branham, Eugene Brown III, and Jamari Wheeler. If you would like to ask a question, please raise your hand, and someone will bring you a microphone. Prior to asking your question, please give your name as well as your affiliation. If you have a follow-up question, please make sure to use that microphone. No video of any kind is allowed during these press conferences. All of the pressers today will be available at the NCAA Digital Media Hub. And with that, we'll start with questions for the student athletes right here.
Adam Jardy of the Columbus Dispatch. For all three of you, I suppose, defensively, the way you were able to execute your game plan yesterday, is that replicable? Can you play with that same focus and attention to detail for a second consecutive game?
Malaki, why don't you start?
I feel like we're going to have to if we want to win. If we just stay connected like we've been doing, last game, I feel like we're going to be in good shape.
Eugene?
I feel like we're just playing for each other right now. So on the defensive end, we all connected, flowing with the ball, playing for each other, it's going to be a great defensive game.
Go ahead, Jamari.
Like those guys said, just execute on the defensive end. That's one thing we want to hold our hat to, like coming into that game, just focus on defense and getting stops, and the offense to take care of itself once we get stops and everything like that. So I think we're going to do it, and like Kai said, we ain't going to have no choice but to do it if we want to keep dancing.
Griffin Strom, 11 Warriors. For Malaki and Jamari, playing in your first NCAA tournament game, how did the nerves kind of live up to the expectations or compare to your expectations? And do you feel like after having already played a game, on that floor, you guys can kind of, settle in even more for the second game now?
Jamari, you want to start?
It was a lot of excitement. At first media, everybody like, all right, we got our second win, now let's go. Everybody's so excited because, like you say, especially me in my first NCAA game, so I was just taking advantage, just soaking all in, but at the same time, locked into details and doing my job.
Yeah, so what Jamari said too, it was a lot of nerves going into that first media. But after that, it was about basketball. We handle business.
Jamari, a guy who prides himself on defensive end, as a smaller guard, when you're going up against a backcourt that's maybe a little bigger than normal, what are some of the challenges in facing guys like that?
Just being physical, starting the game with setting the rules. It's also one-on-one defense, but at the same time, it's a team defense. So just doing what I'm doing, using my speed, my quickness to disrupt big guards and slower guards, but just taking taking my time and just executing the defensive plan, really.
Go ahead, Jerry.
Jerry DePaula, Tribune Review, Pittsburgh. If you guys all of a sudden had to go up against your own defense, that kind of intensity, that kind of smothering intensity, how would you attack it?
Malaki, why don't you start?
We'll retake that.
Can't attack that. There's no way to attack that defense.
Yeah, there's no solid answer to that, to be honest. That's a good question, yeah.
You got to figure something out. Hope it works.
Bill Landis from The Athletic. Malaki, you were talking yesterday about having to kind of adjust in game to Williamson's physicality. Yeah. Just wondering how you feel like you've grown in your ability to do that, say from November, December until now.
Yeah, really it's just the growth of playing in games from, like you said, November to March. Just my growth and seeing how defense has been playing me and just adjusting on the fly. So I feel like just seeing the defensive assignments kind of grow, throughout my play, just kind of adjusting like that.
Will Graves, Associated Press. Eugene, the way last season ended was tough for you guys. EJ seemed to receive a lion's share of blame on social media. He's talked about that kind of stuff. Was there a fear in your mind that, guys transfer for lots of reasons these days? I mean, it doesn't make, a billion reasons. Was there a worry that you were going to leave, that he was going to bail? And what has he meant to you guys, beyond just maybe the way that he plays?
No, I didn't think EJ was ever going to transfer or leave. Maybe go to the league, but never switch schools. He's a Buckeye. He loves this place. We all do. So, it's been solid ever since that, game last year where we, exited early. We took it to the chin and we just battled, the whole season, off season. That's just something we kept in mind. So, he means a lot to this team, and, we're just going to keep it going.
Hey, Gene, Colin Gay Rivals. it seemed like, Villanova's, again, another smaller opponent. Guys with a lot of switching ability, with a lot of versatility. And I'm curious, you saw that against Loyola Chicago, a lot of success defensively. Is that kind of the same game plan without getting into too many specifics? Is that physicality, especially with the amount of versatility that they have on the roster, do you feel like, you guys can kind of pick up where they left off in terms of the same defensive approach that you guys had last night?
Yeah, we kind of just lock in on the main thing. So, if we need to switch, we will. If we don't, we don't. We just, play solid defense. Everybody win their one-on-one matchup and, stay connected.
Jacob Benj with the Lantern. Gene, we talked with Chris Holtmann yesterday after the game and just talking about how, as a coach, and you mentioned how last season ended the way it did. I'm curious how you've seen Chris Holtmann just approach the NCAA tournament this year. He mentioned how, as a coach, he has to have tunnel vision and whatnot. How have you seen him this year just kind of approach March Madness and whatnot, and especially after the win yesterday?
I feel like we're just trying to focus on one game at a time. We're not getting too far ahead of ourselves, staying in the moment, staying in one possession. Just keeping goals small, but, also keeping a big side of, what we want to get to.
Craig Meyer, Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. For all three guys, I'm curious what the experience is like for y'all of having a guy like Greg Oden on staff. And I don't know, how much y'all may remember him as a player, but what's that experience been like?
Jamari, you want to take that first?
It's good just having an older guy, just learning from him. Just ask him little questions, because like you said, he's been playing for a long time, so just getting little tips from him and here and there. But I'm glad he's on the staff. He teaches a lot.
Eugene?
Yeah, like you said, just being able to pick his brain, him playing, college basketball here and, going to the league, stuff like that. So just being able to pick his brain and, pick up little bits of information here and there is solid.
Malaki?
I feel like they said everything that I was going to say, so.
You guys won yesterday by, I think, 13 points. You were 1 of 15 from 3. Those numbers don't normally line up. Offensively, what's the key going to be to shoot better tomorrow? And do the basketballs feel different at all?
Malaki, why don't you start that one?
The basketballs don't feel different. We practiced a couple of days with the basketball, so we kind of get used to them. But we just gonna keep shooting. They're gonna fall eventually. So.
Eugene?
Kind of just keep shooting. Teams go through slumps, and if we just keep shooting, keep our confidence, they'll eventually start falling.
Jamari?
That's why we hang our head on the defense end, because we can't control shots falling. So we know just focus on the defense end. You're going to get good shots. You can't control if it go in the hoop or out the hoop. So just get stops, and you'll like the result at the end of the day.
Jamari, leading into the game, you guys had a full week of practice, and the coaches have talked about getting more leadership from guys in that week and really being dialed in on the game plan. How did you see this team take advantage of that time that you had to prepare and get a little bit healthier? What was practice like the last week between Penn State and Loyola Chicago?
It was fun. Like I say, once we hit the tournament, got selection Sunday, we felt like it was like everybody was so excited. We felt like it was the first day of college basketball practice again. But like you said, the leadership, really the players ran the practice. We kept each other accountable, focused on the details, knew that everybody had us as the underdog, so everybody was locked in the whole week. And we talked about that a little bit today after practice, just stay locked in, things like that. And coach is going to have a game plan out. We just got to go out there and execute it.
Will?
Gina, I guess you might be the one that might have to guard EJ in practice. I don't know. I don't know if that happens a lot, but what are the challenges? It looks to me, just by watching him, and forgive me, there's some old man in his game a little bit. I saw yesterday, shots weren't falling, but he gets in the lane, he gets a little bump, creates some separation, pulls up. You don't see that a lot these days. Mm-hmm. So just what's it like guarding him, and how would you sort of describe the way that he plays?
It's real tough to guard him. I'm guarding him all summer, basically this whole off season. It's you got to find your distance. He can shoot the three. You get too close, he's driving by you, dribbling in the post. It's just a lot of different ways he can score. So that's why, he's so effective each night, because, you can't stop one thing, you can't cut him off, because he's going to find a way to get on the offensive end.
Malaki, I know the nerves are probably never going to completely settle down, but you've got a game under your belt. You already talked about being nervous heading into the game. Do you feel like you're almost like a tournament, not a veteran, but you feel like you have enough experience where the nerves won't really be as much of a factor tomorrow as they were yesterday?
Yeah, like you said, I got that one game under my belt, so knowing what March Madness is all about, I feel good about going into tomorrow and helping the team win.
Steve Hellwagon, 24/7 Sports. For any of the guys, after the game, Coach Holtmann just basically said that there's more to prove, I guess, or more to show for this team, and you can't just be satisfied with winning one game. Just in any of your minds, what does this mean for Ohio State if you can beat Villanova, get to the Sweet 16? You were a top 20 team in the rankings all season until the wheels kind of went off there at the end. Just what would it mean to put it all back together here at the end of the year?
Eugene, you want to take that?
It'll basically just, show everybody what we know we are. Because, of course we were in the top 25. We kind of fell off at the end of the season. But, all along we knew we were a dangerous team. We just had to get things back rolling. So I just feel like we have something to prove to, everybody that counted us out, everybody that continues to count us out. So it'll mean a lot to us.
Will?
What stands out to you about their backcourt? I mean, obviously they got some guys back there that are experienced, know how to play, highly regarded. Sort of, what are the challenges do they pose that maybe you didn't see yesterday?
Jamari, you want to take that?
Like you said, they're older, so they're experienced. They're going to be solid, sound solid, not going to turn the ball over, play out 2 feet, things like that. So just executing the game plan, the defensive game plan, like we did the first game, and just play with a lot of effort.
For any of you, what did it feel like last night? When the game's over, you have sort of the whole afternoon, evening to maybe watch games, but also reflect on winning an NCAA tournament game. What did that feel like? Were your phones blown up, family, friends back home? What was the experience like?
Malaki, you want to start?
It felt good. Just personally, just winning my first, March Madness game. So that felt good, and then, we kind of had some fun, but at the same time, it's kind of a quick turnaround because we play, tomorrow. So we had to lock in. We had to have a little fun, but then also lock in on Villanova. So,
Eugene, you want to add to that?
I think for me it was a different feeling because last year we had the early exit, so walking out the arena and instead of them saying safe travels, they say see you Sunday. It was a great feeling, honestly. So it just feels good.
Jamari?
Yeah, winning always feel good, especially winning the March Madness. I was excited, and like Kai, this is my first tournament and my first win, so I was just excited all day. But like he said, quick turnaround, next game.
Any other questions for the student athletes? Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate it. All right. Joined here on the dais by head coach Chris Holtmann. Just a reminder, I think you guys heard me say this enough this week. If you have a question, please raise your hand. Someone will walk by with a microphone. Please give your name and affiliation prior to asking your question. And if you have a follow-up, do the same. So we're going to start with questions for Coach here. Go ahead right down here.
Hey, Chris. Pat Gallen from CBS in Philly. What's your relationship like with Jay Wright, and do you have any favorite moments that stand out to you, over the years, on or off the court with Jay?
I just really, really, really like the guy and have tremendous respect for him. And I think I'm among so many people that have great respect for him and really like him. He was really in our league in the Big East right now, or when I was in the league, and I'm sure it's the same. He's kind of the statesman of the league, and everything kind of goes as he leads. But he's also got a great humility in how he is as a person and as a coach. When we beat him when they were number one in the country, when I was at Butler, he took a moment. I think he just said, "Hey, I'm really happy for you." And then when we played in the NCAA tournament, and it might have been our game to go to the Sweet 16, he sent me a really long, nice text. Just basically said, "Hey, be Chris." So it was, those are some moments stick out. He didn't have to do that. We've been a little bit not as much in touch since I left the league, but just tremendous respect. And I've stolen so much from him and his program. He has no idea because I didn't tell him. I just didn't tell him. I just watched his practices, watched his teams. Anything that he was doing in terms of teaching, I would watch. Even to this day, I have stolen a lot from him. So thanks, Jay.
Matthew Ryan right here with City of Basketball Love. Obviously, you're very familiar with Villanova playing in the Big East. You guys played them twice a year. What from your time playing against Villanova in the Big East have you learned about how they play and that kind of resonates with this version of the Villanova basketball team?
Yeah, it's very similar. They have a tremendous buy-in to how they want to play. They've got a real toughness to them, always. They just have a real tremendous toughness and approach that is just really tough-minded as well. They're physically tough, and they're really, really tough-minded. Some of that's because they're older. They're typically older, but even some of his younger teams have been really tough and tough-minded. It requires a great discipline to play a team that is this talented, this good, this well-coached, and as tough as they are.
Griffin Strom from 11 Warriors. And Coach, you were just talking about, patterning certain things off of Jay Wright's program at Villanova. And I'm just wondering, in terms of maybe roster build and how you assemble a team, is that something else you've kind of borrowed from Jay Wright's philosophies over the years, and in what way?
I think the idea that Jay talked openly several years ago, really after his Final Four run, about a little bit of a change in his recruiting approach. And if you go back and if you look at it, and those that followed the program know what I'm talking about there. And certainly, that's informs kind of some of our decisions and how we went about recruiting. I'm aware of kind of how he builds his roster, and he plays a smaller rotation. I think there's some appeal to that. I haven't been able to, kind of adopt that maybe as much as I thought I might initially, but there's certainly some things there that I've thought about and kind of studied with the way he builds his roster.
Johnny McGonigal with the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. Chris, you guys last faced Villanova back in November of 2019. One, do you go back and watch that film? And then two, Jermaine Samuels and Colin Gillespie started that game. How different are they now than they were back then?
So different. Yeah, they're so different. They're older, for one. They were young. That group was pretty young. And it was early in the season. So, really the more they're so different than that team. I think that the time we played them, last few years at Butler, those are probably more of the games. While the personnel's different, those are more of the games that probably we reflect on and have watched a little bit more than that. That Ohio State game, it wasn't their night. It was kind of our night. We played well, but it was early in the season too.
Adam Jardy, the Columbus Dispatch. Chris, your commitment to details yesterday from your team seemed maybe as on point as it's been all season. And I know being committed to the game plan doesn't guarantee a win or a loss, but how replicable do you think that is with this team, that you can be as dialed in as you were yesterday tomorrow?
Yeah, I think it's a necessity, Adam, against these guys. I think it's a real necessity. I don't think you can beat them without a really high attention to detail. And you're right, we played as hard as maybe as I've ever seen us play, and we were as detailed in a lot of areas as we've been for sure. And this game is going to be required that, and it was, evident in how we played.
Will.
Chris, Will Graves with the Associated Press. How would you describe EJ's evolution as a player? It seems like he's, from the outside anyway, he's methodically put together literally every piece that he needs over these 3 years to be a good pro at the next level. And do you worry sometimes that his consistency is maybe taken for granted just because you don't have to worry about it looks like?
Yeah, maybe. It's not taken for granted by us. I lose sleep over it. He's going to be leaving here in a little bit, so we don't take it for granted. It's so his consistency really is remarkable. You can pretty much count on what he's going to be night in and night out. And, I just think he's a great example of a kid who's a great kid and has literally gotten better in front of our eyes every year. And he had a real choice. I think, he clearly made the right choice in coming back, but sometimes kids come back and they don't see great improvement in their game for whatever reason. They just don't. We could talk about a number of guys. He's really improved, and for me, it's a great reward because I know it's going to benefit him in terms of his professional career and his professional opportunities in the NBA, and that's exciting to see that happen for a kid.
Chris, you talked yesterday after just reflecting on the win and how last season ended that you kind of have to have tunnel vision as you progress through the tournament. And Gene was talking about how the team has to have fun after winning the game, but now they got to lock in. For you personally as a coach, now that you have won the first game and you play tomorrow, how do you as a coach kind of just turn the focus and shift and move on quickly from getting that win and going into tomorrow?
Yeah, pretty quickly, right away, really right away. I think that's, you try to, again, we've done this now 7 years. You try to turn the page right away and immediately prepare for what's next. And it's such a quick turnaround, so your prep has to start literally right after the game gets over with, and that's what we tried to do.
Stephen Means, Cleveland.com. Chris, obviously size in your guys' backcourt isn't necessarily your strong suit.
Yeah.
Villanova, that's not necessarily the case, especially with Moore. He's 6'4", 210. I asked Jamari this, I'll ask you as well. What are some of the challenges when you are a smaller guard going up against a bigger guy who likes to throw his weight around a little bit?
That, and Gillespie's a power guard too, really physical. I think that is a concern. We're small and we're also slight at some of those spots. And Malaki is not short, but he's slight. He's 18 years old. So it's very much a concern, Stephen. It just really is because they post their guards. They post their 5-man, but they post their guards. Their best post players, along with their 5-man, are their 1 and their 2. So it's a concern.
Craig Meyer from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. Chris, what were some of the traits and qualities that you saw in Greg Oden, having gotten to have known him in the years before this, that made you think that he would be a valuable addition to the staff and with this program?
Greg really wants to coach. I think that's as much. He helped us, initially when we first got here a couple years ago, and then he kind of stepped away and did some other things. Then said, "Hey, Coach, I'll go be an assistant at a mid-major. I just want to coach. I want to get my foot in the door." And I think that initiative that he took and that hunger was obvious. He can obviously bring a lot of things in terms of just his knowledge and his experience, but he wants to coach. He wants to build a career in coaching. And we kind of felt like an obligation this year. And he needs to we need to help him find something this offseason to where he can go get some recruiting experience. And that's what we're going to try to do.
Bill Landis from The Athletic. Chris, you're playing two programs here, like the team you beat yesterday, Loyola and Villanova, that I think most people who follow college basketball they know what those programs are about, what you're going to get when you play those teams, and I'm sure that's something as a coach you take a lot of pride in. I'm just wondering where you think maybe you are in establishing that for your own program now that you're 5 years into this.
Yeah, I think 5 years into this, 4 postseasons, right? We always think about that lost years. We forget about that. I think as much as anything, Bill, it'd be interesting to ask other teams, kind of what would they think of when they think of our team. But I would hope that they would say, what we've tried to build is a really tough and tough-minded team that is connected on both ends and plays together on both ends. And I think, teams that can consistently be that are going to be able to consistently win at a pretty high level. So hopefully that's what would be said. That's what we've tried to build. There's a lot of different ways to build it, but that's what we would hope would be said about us. I think we've had, we've certainly had. I think those would be consistent characteristics that people would say about our teams.
Mike Jensen, Philadelphia Inquirer. Chris, you said you've stolen a lot from Jay. Can you give us something, just something from the X&O point of view?
I got an assistant who is all about 2-foot plays and jump stop and 2-point percentage, and really a lot of that is from Jay. The fundamentals of footwork, the fundamentals of playing on balance, on drives and on the interior. The idea of an offensive rebound being an immediate kick out for a 3 is something that I think a lot of teams have stolen. Jay, we know this because I think they left it behind the time or two. Jay, in every road, and you guys know this that follow him, in any road locker room has attitude written up at the top. We don't do that, but we've stolen some similar ideas. Those are a couple examples.
Jerry.
Thank you. Jerry DePaula, Pittsburgh Tribune Review. Coach, with players having such an easy route to transferring these days, has it changed the way you coach kids, and handle certain situations with kids?
It can change. I think maybe it changes what the conversation in recruiting a little bit. Maybe you're trying to be a little bit more, I don't want to say honest, but maybe a little bit more plain spoken about what the first year or two could be like with young men. I don't think it can change entirely how you coach. I've been asked this a lot because I think you got to, for me, I have to coach to my convictions and what I believe impacts teams and players the best way. And if I can't do that, then I just as soon not coach. I do think there's more dialogue now with parents and with people who are connected to your players because of the transfer portal. You used to go a whole season and not talk. And at the end of the season, maybe you would, maybe you wouldn't. You can't do that anymore. You kind of have to stay in contact with your players, immediate circle.
Mike Sealski from the Philadelphia Inquirer. Chris, Jay has spoken for a while since the Big East kind of reconstituted in 13 and 14, that it's really to his advantage and to the advantage of the league that it's considered a basketball-first league.
Mm-hmm.
You've seen that, obviously, and now you've seen coaching in the Big Ten. What do you think of his take on that, and how do you compare the Big East now compared to the Big Ten in that regard?
Well, they've really sold it as a basketball-first league, and I think it's played to their benefit. Obviously, the addition of UConn has helped. It's a tremendous basketball league, and I get why you would sell something. They've got really strong brands, basketball brands. that have had great success and won national championships and been to Final Fours. You know, a lot of similar sized institutions. You know, I had a tremendous experience in that league. Tremendous experience. I loved it. And part of it was just the purity of how important, you know, basketball was in that league. I love the Big Ten as well. They're just different in how they're set up.
Chris, you guys, or Spencer Holbrook from Letterman Row. Chris, you guys obviously finally get a tournament game under your belt with some of these guys that haven't played in one before. Do you feel like that takes a little bit of the nerves away from what they're going to go through trying to get to a Sweet 16 now? Probably,
you know, but I think being on edge is not a bad thing. So I think it probably takes maybe relaxes some guys, and maybe we need that to help us, you know, shoot the ball a little bit better. But I think, you know, there's a place for being on edge and having some nerves in a tournament like this.
Chris, wanted to follow you talking about the team's connectedness earlier. What do you maybe attribute some of that to? Is it like hourglass end of the season coming up? Is it that you had a week to prepare? Why do you think you guys were able to be as dialed in as they were like that?
Probably all of those things, Adam. And again, when we've been healthy, we have been pretty connected. And you know, I'm not saying if Kyle's with us every game we win the league, but I think we probably could finish a game out maybe. So I think there is a precedent that this has been a pretty connected group. And I just think anytime, you're sensing that the end is coming and you have some older guys that know the end is coming, there's an urgency to how they're going to play.
Steve Hellwagen, 24/7 Sports.
Where you at, Steve?
Way in the back.
Oh, my bad. Okay.
Question, your offense yesterday, EJ took 2 shots, I think, in the first half, and it was kind of, I don't know, they made you play left-handed a little bit. Here's Villanova. I think they're in the top 25 in adjusted defense as well.
Yeah.
Just what can you guys do to tweak things? Were you happy with the shots that you got and the people who were taking them? Just in a general sense, what were your thoughts about that and what you'll have to do?
I thought we settled a few too many times, and I thought our shot selection on a few occasions could have been better, Steve. I thought we could have tacked a little bit better than what we did. Now, they were very, very disruptive to us, and you're right, they trapped some of our guys, and they also threw multiple guys at EJ. But I still think we settled a couple times that, and I didn't love a couple of our shots. So we need to get better with that. But Villanova can do a lot of the same thing. You know, they're going to bump you off cuts. They're going to be really, really physical on the interior. And if you can't play with force, you know, you can't be effective against these guys. It just won't happen. It just won't happen. They're too physical. They're too old and too strong. So hope that answers that.
Last question for Coach Will.
Chris, you talked about how the transfer portal has maybe changed the landscape a little bit. I mean, last year, tough out, EJ gets a lot of stuff online. Guys transfer for a billion reasons. Your players are up here saying they never worried about it. What does it say to you about maybe him that he kind of not only just sort of absorbed that stuff, but turned it into maybe almost like a positive sort of doubling down maybe on sort of how he felt about Columbus?
You know, they said they never worried about him transferring after that. Yeah, and we did our due diligence on that, and I think, you know, figured out it was, you know, we communicated with his family. I think it was somebody who was betting on the game from somewhere outside of Columbus. I mean, I guess is what we understand. So, I think, you know, with EJ, who he's been who he was in the recruiting process, who his family was in the recruiting process, has been consistent with who he's been in 3 years. You know, I think anytime, you know, you're coaching a kid and you see him maybe go through difficult things, you kind of know in some ways how they could respond. And you kind of know sometimes, hey, guys, you know, could transfer for this reason or that reason, just because it's you just get that sense. You know, with EJ, we knew how he felt about his opportunity to come back. I don't think he, you know, I don't think he wanted to leave on that note. And I also think also he knew how we felt about him and how he felt about this place. And to his credit, he's left a great legacy. He's been honest on social media, and a lot of his takes on social media on just I give him credit. He's been really vulnerable and honest, and he was in that moment, and it's a credit to him.
Thank you, Coach. Appreciate it.
Okay.